Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello, and welcome to this episode of An Old Guy in Europe, where once again I talk with Carl Munson in my featured guest spot on his Good Morning Portugal Show, this time in May of 2022. In this episode, we discuss electromagnetic fields, making choices, personal empowerment, and freedom. So, as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
You know him as Banana Slug, and we love that music, don't we, James? Good morning.
I'm loving it more and more every week. Good morning, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully, thank you.
Right. Well, what's been on your mind, sir? Have you had a nice weekend, first of all? Thank you for that photo. That's not it. Gentleman playing Swecker. So many pictures, James. Yeah, there.
Yes.
That's you took. Thank you for that.
So what a blessing. I mean, you're out in the sun playing a card game at the ocean. Like, does life get any better than that?
Well, is that us in our dotage, do you think? That's not a bad way to end up, is it?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Talk about politics. Yeah, chew the fat, play the game, have a beer. Amazing. I'm up for it.
One of my favorite Portuguese words, perfeito.
Perfecto, sí. So you've had a good weekend by the sound of it. What has been on your mind?
Spending some time with one of our riot. To say it then, Tina, who tracked me out on the show. We spent a couple days having the opportunity to show off Ericeira to her.
Gina.
Yes, Gina Turner, I think it is. Yes. No, not
Tina Turner. You met up with Tina Turner.
No, that's Ian. That's Ian. Getting all my names mixed up. Carter. I said she's Peggy's sister. You know Peggy Carter from the Avengers.
Morning, Gina.
Too many names to remember, but I'm having a good time. Yes.
More importantly,
heading up to your neck of the woods for the meetup on Wednesday. So.
Oh, excellent stuff.
She's just in the process of finding a place to stay while she's there. So.
Fantastic.
I'll be hanging out a little bit more with her today, and then take a big long nap, I think. I'm just not used to all this socializing.
Well, yeah, I think that's the way it rolls here. You know, the weekends are so great that you have to have a little bit of a tired Monday and maybe sleep it off on a Monday afternoon. So if you could stay awake for this feature, it'd be fantastic.
Happy to. No problem at all.
Okay. So what you been thinking?
Well, it's funny. Almost every week I'd say, "Oh, there's one or two things from the last one that I missed or that I want to emphasize or whatever." So I'm finding a little brief recap or summary of those things to start feels right. One of the things I wanted to point out, we were talking about electromagnetic fields and being a part of our human existence, but EMFs are. And that's electromagnetic fields, EMFs, are a part of every living thing. Plants, animals, bacteria, you name it, there's electromagnetic fields being projected. And I'm sure many of us have had the experience, I know I have, particularly with this reference to the redwoods, of going into an all-natural area, especially if it's filled with trees, and just feeling somehow better. You just feel calmer, you feel more alive. And that's because all the trees, all the plants are emitting these electromagnetic fields that are not impacted in any way by negative electromagnetic energy. So you're just walking into this giant field of positive electromagnetic energy. I said, well, okay. Now, see, this is the part I said last week, what I love. Like, I know it's true, but now it's like the science just is showing why it's true. Like, here's the reason. So if you're ever feeling low, take a walk, get out into the woods, hug a tree.
Yeah, absolutely. They were right, weren't they, those hippies? The hippies have always been right, haven't they? Let's face it.
I think so. And then there was a comment about the overruling of our feelings, or the disregard of our emotions, like we're trying to push them away. And it's reflected in the language, even when we say it's just a feeling, like it's not important. And I think, again, that we're not giving our heart and the way it communicates with us enough credit. We're, like, no, it's not just a feeling like it's unimportant. It is a feeling. We should consider it. But we don't need to let it define us in any given moment. This is the feeling I'm having in the moment, just like a thought, fleeting. So notice it, recognize it, embrace it, and then if it doesn't suit you, let it go, which is a choice.
Oh man, we're never going to get to play cards, because you and me are going to be talking about this as well, aren't we? When we're old giffers down by the beach there.
Yes,
what is the right amount? What is the right amount of attention for a feeling, do you think, James?
Well, it's actually leading in perfectly. I didn't do this on purpose. I chose, and that wasn't chosen perfectly. I mean, intentionally, to talk about choice today. So here we are, coming from that motto that I share so often: notice, choose, and act. That three-way approach to living a life. Before I move into there, I want to give the organization where I learned that from, because very little of what I talk about is original creative stuff. It's stuff I have been exposed to or engaged in and learned from. But Notice, Choose, and Act came from an amazing organization called Challenge Day, where you can't really sum it up, but essentially they're working in high schools and middle schools on issues of oppression, bullying, and getting to know each other better as a way of reducing that particular dynamic in schools. It's so much more than that, but their motto is notice, choose, and act. And one of the qualities of that I always like to share is they instructed. Notice that it says notice, choose, and act, not notice, beat yourself up, choose, and act. Because so many of us go, oh, and we just notice that I shouldn't be doing that. It's like, no, don't beat yourself up. Just notice. Come on, give yourself a break. Be kind. And that kind of goes to where I am with the issue of choice. It's easy to, well, even there in the beating yourself up for noticing something about yourself that you don't like, you have a choice. You don't have to beat yourself up. But, again, if you're conscious in the notice part that you have a choice, then you might not beat yourself up, or you might, depending on your nature and how you're feeling in the moment. But at least it's a choice. And this is where, again, in the language, to me, language is so powerful, which is why I have consciously and intentionally shifted some of the ways that I present my experience, because we say things like, I have to go to the store, I have to go to work, I have to. It's no, you don't. You choose to. Mm-hmm. And it may not feel like you're making a choice. I don't have a choice. I don't have food. I have to go to the grocery store. Well, that's true. Those facts are true. But you have a choice. You don't have to go to the grocery store, but there's a consequence to every choice we make. Life is just choice after choice after choice after choice. It's just perpetual choices throughout a living life. So what happens if I don't go to the grocery store? Well, I remain hungry and I don't have food. What happens if I do go to the grocery store? Well, I can obtain food and not be hungry. So my choices are go or don't go, but we take freedom away from ourselves by framing it like we're obligated to it. We don't have a choice. When we don't have a choice, we're not free. And everything is a choice. How we feel, how we react, what we say, how we behave, everything is a choice. Now, I will concede that sometimes circumstances present in our lives, and we can argue whether we created that or not. I'll opt to not choose that right now because, sometimes we are victims of violence or a family that treats us poorly, and those kinds of things. I didn't have a choice in that, so I won't go into the spiritual end of whether you did or not. But if we're going to assume, well, yeah, you did not have a choice in that, but you do have a choice how you respond to it, how you react to what happens to you. And that's a big part of my therapeutic approach, is when we're looking at people who experience trauma in their lives. It's like the freedom you have is to choose differently now. You're not in it now. So how do you choose to be in your life now? And when we can come there, bring it to the present, then there's power. I can choose my reaction. And we forget that, and we forget it in our languaging, our languaging of obligation. I must do that. I need to do that. I have to do that. So one of the things in the choices I've made about my career, for instance, which is a huge blessing for me and was a very long process, but I'm now living a life of passion because I figured out what my passion was, and I chose this. And in the past, I would wake up in the morning very often with that feeling, I have to go to work. I think most of us can relate to that feeling. And ever since I made the decision to become a therapist and to go through that process and to continue growing in my life, it's now I wake up and I go, oh, I get to work today. I chose this. I choose to go to work. I get to. I want to. And there's power in that, and freedom in making the choices. I've made, because of the way my mind works, I've made what I call the equation to choice making. There's sort of a victim position of life is happening to me, which implies I don't have a choice. And I say, well, it's that plus two. And people say, what? It's like, it's not life happening to you, it's life happening for you. So that's plus two. And it's my sort of math geeky mind, but it's another one of those things that makes it easier to remember. Oh, that's right. It's not happening to me. It's happening for me. So instead of saying, why is this happening to me? I can say, how is what's happening for me?
Yeah.
So even in the position of things sucking, like, oh, this situation sucks, you can still choose, if you choose to, say, what's in this for me? What's happening right now that feels sucky to me that is actually for my benefit, something that I can benefit from? So there's a shift in attitude, and therefore a shift in the quality of your life when you're choosing actively to grow and to expand. Again, the energy of love is expansive and growing, and like this. When you choose that, that's the state you get to be in. When you're choosing the obligation and the need, there's that restriction, and that's the fear aspect. So there's power and freedom in choice if we remember it. We can choose things.
So good, so liberating. Because the whole thing, the whole drama of all of these things happening to me, and I have to do this and I have to do that, again, is a constricting and deadening influence, isn't it, in our lives? Whereas, I actually chose most of this before and I forgot, and now I'm pretending I'm having to do it when it was in fact an earlier choice. Seeing that is so liberating.
You didn't have to be on the show this morning. You were tired. You didn't have to be.
I never have to be here. And people say to me, you must dread it sometimes. But it is partly, no, I don't, because I love it. But also because I remember what you just said. I made this happen. I decided to do this. So you've got to take responsibility for that as well, haven't you? Which then goes back into a little bit into the sort of what sounds a little bit negative possibly, but I chose this and I love it. So I mean, what better combination could there be with that?
And I had a real life experience that I enjoy sharing, a little anecdote, because I also advocate for having the feelings that you have, being the way you choose to be. Like, there's no, we we behave as if there's a rule book for how we're supposed to exist in the world, and there's not.
Yes.
There simply is not. Oh, I have to raise my children. No, you don't. And there's a lot of people, oh my God, well, if you have children, you're irresponsible if you don't. And all of that may be true, but you don't have to.
Yes.
And there are people who choose not to, and they live the
Yeah.
consequences of those choices. And the people that impacts them, then they get to figure out how they want to deal with it. But there's nothing that we're obligated to do by,
Are we lucky?
innately.
Are we lucky? Yeah, we're blessed, aren't we, in that way, to have this blank canvas. And what, James, just finally, we have Gilda limbering up and ready to be all Migration Monday-ish with us. But as I was sat on the porch, not on the porch, it sounds like the right place to be sat watching an eclipse, isn't it? On the porch in an American style. We're on our first floor balcony looking at this fantastic lunar eclipse last night, thinking about Bonnie Tyler, of course. I'll never tire of showing this particular picture from my teenage years. And I thought to myself as we sat there at 4:30 this morning, life is so busy, and it is full of the choices we make, isn't it? And we do make it busy ourselves, because at 4:30 in the morning, life isn't very busy, and one can be very present to all the choices one has made that are breathing down one's neck as the week starts again. And there were just a few birds singing, and an occasional car going along the road, somebody having to get up early, well, choosing to get up early to go to work. And I just thought, our lives are so complicated. And you're absolutely right. Most of that complication has been chosen by us, has it not?
Absolutely. I would love to share just this one anecdote,
Go on.
because I think we kind of, once we become aware, there's that possibility of beating ourselves up. But I actually had this experience once. I was just feeling what I call pissy, just one day, and I was conscious of it. I said, I feel pissy today, and my immediate response was, that's okay. You can feel pissy if you choose to. There's nothing wrong with feeling pissy. Just be pissy if you want to. So I said, all right, I choose to be pissy. And immediately it was like, why the hell would I do that? The awareness, the consciousness of the choices, why would I choose that now that I'm conscious? And it's an amazing dynamic when you can engage in that process of knowing that you're at choice with everything, even how you feel.
It's
and
a superpower.
that has an application in our, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's a superpower, James, isn't it?
Yes, it is, absolutely. And it's important to keep in mind, in this whole immigration process, we can feel like we don't have a choice and like we're powerless, but we do. And it's, those of us who are here chose to be here. Those of us who are looking at it are in the process of making that choice. Be aware, you're not a victim. If stuff is screwing with your mind, just let it go. Like, I made the choice to be here. That's a part of the process. That's one of the consequences of the choice I'm making. And eventually I'll make it, and I'll be happy I made that choice. It's just such a better, not better, a more
empowering,
peaceful,
more peaceful, more
empowering way to go through, make that choice.
What a fantastic way to hand over the baton to Gilda Pereira from EI. So let's play your theme tune. Thank you so much, James. We'll see you again next Monday. Looking forward to it.
See you next week.
Bye.